Well, hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. So, as Olivia mentioned, Christine Clunan, class of 98, and I'm excited to share with you an organization I'm really passionate about. The Women's Lunch Place is a day shelter for women. It's located on Newbury Street in Boston. And I got engaged with them a number of years ago because I was living in the neighborhood. And I think from, the non-Sibby that's been inspired in me through Andover, was really looking for a place that I could connect with. And I walked in and I had been involved with some other shelters during my time in college, and this place didn't feel like a shelter. It kind of reminded me in ways of, Andover. It just was this really strong community feel. And I've just really enjoyed getting more and more engaged. I'm currently on the advisory board and just recently joined the development committee. And over kind of this period in COVID, it's really been impressive to see how the Women's Lunch Place has just really continued to serve its guests with such dignity and care. And I think one of those is this opportunity to write cards. I think what impresses me about the Women's Lunch Place is they really think about the whole person. So with that, I'd really love to introduce you to Allegra Mara, who is on the staff at the Women's Lunch Place, and she can really dive in and tell us a little bit more about what things are looking like and how cards like this really impact their guests.
Yeah, thank you so much, Christine and Olivia, for getting this all together. Just tell me throughout this too if my internet breaks up or anything. I'm at our office today, and sometimes the internet's a little bit spotty. But I just wanted to thank you all for being here and for participating in the card making project for Women's Lunch Place. I will definitely, be happy to address some of the any other questions that you have. Deborah, like you were asking about, like, are these actually useful cards? Do people enjoy them? And we've really gotten no negative feedback about them. So I would say, like, everything seems to be going well. Usually our staff will quickly read through the cards before they drop them in the lunch bags too, just to make sure, there's no like super religious cards or anything that's kind of like not appropriate. But we really haven't run into anything that I can flag for y'all, except for around the holidays, we just had some super, religious focused cards, which we want to stay away from. So I think that I'd be happy to answer some more questions. But I did prepare just a little like informational slideshow of sorts about Women's Lunch Place. And some people really connect with, numbers and photos. So I included some of those as well. So I'm going to try to share my screen if that's possible, Olivia. I think it says host disabled participant screen sharing. Oh, I can do it now. Thank you. Okay, let me pull up the PowerPoint. And again, just feel free to ask any questions or stop me if you have any questions. But I'll give you like a quick, kind of overview of Women's Lunch Place. As Christine mentioned, we are a day shelter in Boston, located right on Newbury Street. And we've been around for about 30, maybe 8 years at this point, and we've always been located in the basement of the Church of the Covenant. We're not associated with the church at all, but we rent from them, and they've been a really wonderful host to us over all of these years. Obviously, our mission is to provide a safe space for women that are experiencing homelessness, poverty, food insecurity. We want to be a space where they can go during the day and feel safe and welcome. A lot of shelters, they actually are closed during the day. So in the morning, people are asked to leave, and we want to be one of those programs that they can go to during the day and just kind of get whatever they need. Our thing is that we know that every guest that comes to Women's Lunch Place is experiencing a variety of different things. So there's not like one size fits all in terms of, maybe not everyone's looking for housing, not everyone is looking for a shower, but we want to kind of offer a lot of services to guests and basically say, you can take what you want. We'll meet you where you are. We're never going to force you into anything. We don't ask our guests anything at the door. We really just say, if you identify as a woman, you can come into Women's Lunch Place and take a break for the day and get what you need. And that, I think, helps people feel kind of safe because they don't have to disclose their name. They don't have to disclose their date of birth or where they're currently living. We basically just say, come hang out and we'll provide whatever you would like. Things have obviously changed a little bit with COVID, as I think every organization and person ever has had to change because of COVID. But we are located still at Newbury Street. We had to change our hours a bit, so now we're open Monday through Saturday, 8 to 1. And because of social distancing guidelines and restrictions, we're actually right now providing all to-go meals. So usually people come inside, sit down, have a meal with their friends, but obviously you can't really gather and eat with other people at this point. So since March, we've been doing kind of an inside-out model of service and providing meals at the door to our guests. So we see these are two of our staff outside with our meal bags. The cards go into those meal bags, and we have breakfast, lunch, drinks, snacks, dessert, kind of anything people could need for the day, and our guests can pick those up and use them for the day. We also provide, hygiene supplies, little toiletries like shampoo, conditioner, deodorant, toothpaste. We've given out a lot of masks, obviously, sanitizer. During the winter, we do give out, winter items like gloves, and we did have a really great supply of winter coats, boots, just making sure everyone has what they need. And so we're slowly starting to welcome people back in the shelter. Like, we have some of our advocates, which I'll tell you more about soon. They meet one-on-one with guests, and they've been starting to have people meet inside. So we're slowly, safely getting to that point. We kind of have 4 areas that we focus our services in. So nutrition, direct care, advocacy, and expressive therapies. Into those a little bit more, but if you're a numbers person, I think it's good to kind of see, the need that's out there. You can see, the homeless number in Massachusetts. Every year, Boston does a specific homeless count as well, and they recently did that, I think, a couple of weeks ago, so maybe we'll have some updated numbers soon. But it's obviously something that's hard to quantify. A lot of people, the homeless means a lot of different things to people. It could mean sleeping on the street. It could mean staying in an overnight shelter. It could also mean, staying with a family or a friend and kind of couch surfing between houses. So it's kind of a tough number to track. But you can see with COVID-19, we did see about a 17% increase in evictions. Luckily, right now, we still have the eviction moratorium in place, so that's great. And we saw a 59% increase in food insecurity. So the need is definitely there, and we want to be able to provide for the guests that come to Women's Lunch Place. And each year we do a guest survey. It's the one time that we ask guests anything about themselves, completely anonymous. They don't have to take it, but these are some of our numbers. This is from the 2019 survey. We didn't conduct it in 2020 yet because of COVID and everything. So our guests are about 64% in the minority. About 60% of them are homeless. Some of them are currently housed, but they, used to come to Women's Lunch Place, and they continue to come because they love the community. We have about 56% of our population is 55 or older. 37% have struggled with some types of substance use disorder, and 57% have experienced domestic violence or are currently fleeing domestic violence situations. So in terms of our guest population, it's very varied, a lot of different people coming from a lot of different backgrounds, and we just try our best to offer services to everyone. Our meals program is probably it was like what we were founded on, our starter program. We do breakfast and lunch every day. All of these pictures are obviously pre-COVID times with no one wearing masks, but we have a kitchen that's staffed with about 5 staff, and usually a ton of volunteers that staff the kitchen, but I'll get into that later. So we always make everything in-house, fresh from our kitchen, breakfast and lunch every day. Usually it's served restaurant style. So like I mentioned, everyone's sitting at their tables, relaxing. They don't have to wait in a line, which we find can be very, anxiety inducing for some people. And our volunteers bring the meals to them. Now we've obviously switched to takeout meals, but still working out. We're still serving anywhere from probably 70 to 90, sometimes more bags of food a day to our ladies. And we recently started working with St. Francis House, which is it's a day shelter in Boston as well. But they've actually opened up a temporary overnight shelter for about 100 guests. So we've been providing meals for them throughout the week as well. So that's about 1,000 extra meals per week that we're sending to the hotel to make sure that they have food as well. Sorry, does someone have a question? Oh no, I think someone might just be unmuted, but that's okay. Okay, so that's our kitchen. And also for COVID, you can see that we've adjusted our kitchen operations just a little bit. We do the curbside meals now. Again, the photos of our staff outside. We have volunteers in that first photo who come and pick up the bags of food for the hotel and deliver them to the hotel. And then we have advocates who actually make pantry boxes of food and deliver those to some of their clients that are elderly and homebound and can't leave to get to Women's Lunch Place. So that middle photo is an example of what we've been delivering to people. So that's a little bit there. Okay, so direct care. I just wanted to give you an idea of before COVID, we would do showers and laundry for people. So ladies could sign up for a shower and do laundry once a week if they wanted. We also had a nap room, and we have our emergency clothing closet. We don't really have enough space to take a lot of clothing donations, so we really only do that around the winter time, but we usually try to keep in stock socks and underwear, new obviously, some, basic t-shirts or pants that people can wear. But in terms of donations, we can't really take not new clothes at the moment, especially because we have no space. But I'll get into that a little bit more soon. And obviously with COVID, we have still been doing all of these things. We've just been distributing more PPE. We started doing like laundry services for some women if they want. Basically, they can drop off their laundry to us and we do it, and then they come back a couple hours later, pick up their laundry. So we've started doing that as well. And we're still trying to think through ways to safely, open the showers up for people as well. I mentioned advocacy. Advocates are super important because they provide one-on-one help for any of our guests that come to Women's Lunch Place. Like I mentioned, everyone's needs are so varied. So having advocates to work one-on-one with clients and identify goals, help connect them to services is super important. Unfortunately, I think, getting access to basic human rights like healthcare or an ID or an address is very, very complicated through the government. So advocates really work to help our guests navigate through those systems and make sure they can get, what they need or whatever assistance they need. Right now they're meeting, curbside with guests outside when it was nicer weather. Now we're allowing one-on-one appointments inside. They do a housing workshop weekly where they kind of just open up a couple hours for guests to come in and learn about the housing process and work with an advocate to start to get their name in that system, and kind of started through that complicated process as well. But we basically want to meet people where they are and help them with whatever they need. And so advocates are really able to do that, which is great. We do have a resource center that's currently closed, but this is where we have computers, phones. We collect mail for women. That is not closed. We're still collecting mail, but they can use 67 Newbury as their main address, which is great because if you don't have an address, you actually can't apply for so many things. So we collect mail for people, and we've been distributing that throughout COVID. Also important, with stimulus checks, like people are getting those checks and we want to be able to get those to those people. So we've been doing that. And before times our library, we had a library upstairs as well, where we basically just have a bunch of books and people can come and get whatever they need. We have been bringing out like a cart of books outside so people can still kind of pick up books and do some reading. And we're hoping to get the resource center in some way kind of safely up and running again, at least letting a couple people use computers or provide some services there. So fingers crossed we can do that soon. Let's see. Expressive Therapies. we have a lot of what we call creative expressions programs that we were going on before COVID as well. So you can see a list of them there, but a lot of those are guest identified skills that they want to learn and have classes on. So we do a lot of drawing classes and jewelry making classes and painting and photography, etc. We have a volunteer who would come and do yoga once or twice a week with the ladies as well. And during COVID, we obviously had to stop those like small class gatherings, but we've been passing out like art kits to go. Some of our volunteers that did like the jewelry making classes put together like small bags of beads and string and instructions on how to make different bracelets. So that's been great. And not, like I mentioned, we're still passing out books. Just some more, if you're a numbers person, stuff to know that happened in 2020. It's nice to see some numbers because even though 2020 felt like kind of a crazy year, it's nice to see that there was still stuff happening. So you can read through these and just kind of see, how many meals were given out. It's a crazy number. How many visits with advocates, and that PPE number is probably a lot more than that as well. Sometimes, we don't record everything. And these numbers were through the fiscal year. So that was, the end of June. So since then, we've still continued to give out a ton of things. So good stuff is still happening. I like to talk about, volunteer opportunities, but volunteering at Women's Lunch Place has obviously changed drastically since the start of the pandemic. We used to have anywhere from 30 to 40 volunteers a day that were working in the kitchen or the resource center or helping with creative expressions. Now we have a couple of volunteers who deliver meals weekly to St. Francis House. They do that every day and drop off those meals. And right now in the kitchen, we have a very small number of volunteers that we're able to welcome in, and we're not at the moment able to welcome new volunteers, but that's something that I'm hoping to be able to do in the next couple of months. But with space restrictions now, it's definitely going to be a lot less people than it was before. We do have some volunteers that are serving as donation drop-off sites. So that basically means like if you live in Arlington, you can say, I'll offer up my house as a donation drop-off site. And if somebody doesn't want to come all the way into Boston, they will contact you and drop off donations at your house, and then you bring them into Women's Lunch Place. So we have people kind of scattered throughout the city and like the suburbs surrounding the city, which is nice. And then the Resource Center and Welcome Center currently on hold, but obviously hoping in the next couple of months or so that we can work through some getting some people back inside. And I think that you all are helping with the card portion of this, but just some things that are other ways that people are helping now, or if you're looking for, other ways to get involved. We can host an in-kind donation drive. So maybe with your friends or your family, you do like a toiletry donation drive. We're always accepting like small travel size toiletries that we pass out. Maybe I'll send y'all like the current list of high need items. We have an Amazon wish list as well that will come right to the shelter. We do have a young professionals group at Women's Lunch Place. That's just a group of, young professionals that help with fundraising or event planning. They're doing like a book club, a monthly book club. If that's something that people are interested in, you can let me know too. Mother's Day, which feels far away, but it's really not. That's one of our largest celebrations, I would say. So every year we have one of our guests design a Mother's Day card, and we sell Mother's Day cards, and you can send them to motherly figures in your life, whatever that means to you. And so that happens around Mother's Day. We'll probably start, selling the cards maybe in beginning of April. So keep an eye out for that too. That's a great way to just get involved and support Women's Lunch Place. And we do have two other events that happen throughout the year, the Spaghetti Dinner and Eat Lunch Give. Those are both meal-based fundraisers. So obviously we had to do them virtually this year. And Eat Lunch Give is definitely virtual. That's in May this year. There will be a whole virtual program where you get to learn, more about Women's Lunch Place, what your support is going towards. Spaghetti Dinner will be the same, but in October. And I don't know what that will look like yet, because who knows what October will look like in our world. And you can also sponsor breakfast or lunch in honor of a loved one. There's a space on our website where you can, pick a day and dedicate it to someone in your life. Maybe it was, Valentine's Day and you wanted to just um, sponsor a meal in honor of your mother or your partner. So that's something that people do as well. Like I mentioned, you can host a fundraiser with friends and family, host a toiletry drive, anything like that. And like y'all are doing and did, write notes to put in the to-go meals. And so, like I said, every day we give out anywhere from 70 to 90 of those bags. And they're full, like full to the brim of food, but just having like a small, positive note in there, I think is something that our ladies enjoy. And we have really missed the one-on-one connection with our guests. I think that was something that Women's Lunch Place, that's something that we were really special about. It was a really small, like, great community where you can come and just hang out and talk with people. And our staff, knows the guests, our volunteers know the guests, and not having that ability to like be close to each other and hug is really hard. So I think the notes are a nice little just addition to the bags. I think, some people get, caught up in the what to write in the note, and I totally get that. I think even something as simple as, I hope you have, a nice spring day. Not yet, but because it's winter, but something little like that with flowers on that you drew on the card is totally simple enough. Something that's just thinking of you from a Women's Lunch Place volunteer. I think that anything like that is really, special to people. Um, so that's just, thank you for supporting us. I know I just spit out so much info, but let me know if you have any questions, and I'd be happy to answer them. So thank you. Sorry for all of that so fast.
Thanks, Allegra. It's so fantastic just to see all the great work that you guys have been able to do during this challenging time.
No, it's definitely, we've had to, get creative with things. I think when we first decided to stop having people inside in our community setting, we weren't sure how long this was going to be. I think that's how everyone kind of felt. But seeing how we were able to just kind of pivot really quickly and change the way we do meals, I think has been pretty impressive. We just want to make sure we always get meals out to people. That's kind of like the starting point. And then making sure we always have staff, which we always do outside, willing to just like chat with the people that come by, make sure they know about the other services, because they might come for a meal but not know that they can actually set up an appointment with an advocate that can help them. Maybe they're just trying to get their mass ID, or they're trying to find more permanent housing. Just trying to connect them to our advocates is also something we've really been trying to do. So yeah, there's a lot going on. Yeah, any other like questions I can answer, or things that people are thinking about? Or
I'd be curious to know, what is your funding for the organization?
yeah, great question. So we don't receive any like state or federal funding, which gives us some freedom to be able to, not have super restrictive things on who we can serve. We do get a lot of our funding. I forget the exact percentage, maybe about a third comes from grants that we apply for. So we have a whole development team that does that every day, applies for grants. We do have a lot of supportive individual supporters, corporate donors that either come in to volunteer and pay to volunteer, or help with donations to Women's Lunch Place. That's a huge part. Something that in the past too, there was a lot of our funding was placed on our events. So like Spaghetti Dinner, Eat Lunch Give, the Mother's Day fundraiser, those are all really important for us to be able to get in money then and reach our fundraising goals. So great question, but that's mostly, individuals, grants, and corporate supporters that we get our funding from.
Quick question. I think our our group or our campaign was thinking about, or said, you know, this is a February thing, but it sounds like if you're giving out 80 plus bags a day, this is something where you probably would have a need going forward, at least,
Oh, yeah.
you know, until you can get more volunteers in person. So is this something where it's good or cool to spread the word, send, you know, send to other folks and continue after February?
Yeah. We, with the notes and everything, that's kind of like a year-long thing that you can do at any time. So feel free to pass that along to people. We basically just say you can drop off or mail the letters. You can do it, drop them off Monday through Saturday, 8 to 1. There's always staff outside. You can just say you're just dropping off some notes, or you can mail them to 67 Newbury. But yeah, that's kind of an all year thing. You know, around Valentine's Day, we had some people write like Valentine's themed cards. We don't really have any holidays upcoming, so I would probably stick to just like uplifting notes, or eventually spring. I'm feeling like I'm jumping to spring, but soon it will be here. You know, anything like that is good. Thank you.
And no envelopes, right?
No, you don't need to put them in
Okay.
envelopes. They can, like, really, you can, if you had put them in envelopes, that's okay. We just stick them in the bags. But even just like a small note card size, you can just drop them all in one big envelope, mail them to us, and we'll put them in the bags. Any other things?
Allegra, that was absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for that wealth of information. And it was just, I'm so grateful for your time and slideshow for us.
Yeah, I'm happy to send that to you as well if you want to, you know, share it with people that were here, or if there's other people that couldn't make it. And I'll also send, I think I mentioned like our current donation needs and our Amazon wish list, if those are things that people want to share around too. We're always looking for those. So I'll send that all to you after this.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Awesome.
And I just wanted to jump in also to one thing I found that's been nice the Women's Lunch Place has done in Allegra. I don't think you mentioned this, but I think it's related to your young professionals group, but they mentioned the book club. There's now on the website a bookshelf. So with recommendations around books that discuss issues of homelessness and poverty. So if it's something that you're interested in learning more about, they really have a wealth of information on the website.
I'll send that link too. That's a great point, Christine.
One random additional question, if we have 1 minute, is just out of curiosity, how many do you find of people that come by either have pets or some type of animal that they are working with? I've heard there's been a lot of, I can't leave a situation because I can't leave my dog, or cat, things like that. Curious if that's a subset of a program.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. We don't have any specific like programming around pets. When we were open, we couldn't allow people to bring any pets in. But that, I'm trying to think, since I've been there, I've only seen like 1 or 2 people try to bring a dog in. We do have some of our guests that were some people that are housed. I know that they've had cats or smaller pets, and that's something that, you know, at points they've struggled to be able to afford food for those animals, and that's, you know, something our advocacy department, we do have some small amounts of emergency funding depending on people's situations. I know in the past we've given people like a gift card to CVS and said, okay, use some for you, but if you need to get pet food there, do that as well. But we don't have any specific programming related to pets. That's definitely an interesting one though. We've seen occasional people need some funding for animals in their life. Yeah. Anything else I can answer for y'all? Happy to obviously I'll share my email as well if people are interested in learning more. Like I mentioned with volunteer opportunities, right now we don't really have a lot of space in the kitchen to welcome new volunteers, but I've started to do kind of like virtual orientations, similar to what I just did for you all, where we can kind of start onboarding new volunteers for the eventual time that we can have people back. We could say, great, you've gone through our like online orientation. Now we'll start getting you signed up for some shifts in the kitchen. Also, the resource center is another spot that I mentioned. Like if you have specific skills around like job training or technology, we always have volunteers up in that resource center that help people apply for jobs, help people with basic tech questions, resume help. So let me know if you are interested in that. Once we get that open, I'd love to have more people upstairs in the resource center. And then we also have volunteers in what we call the welcome center. That's where they would pass out like toiletries to guests. That's also just a space where you kind of are just a person in a body that people can talk to if they just want to chat about their day. That's where they also sign up for like showers and laundry. So you kind of just are a friendly face to welcome people in. So once we get back up and running, I'd be happy to send all of that information to you all. I'm just putting my email in the chat. It's just allegra@womenslunchplace.org. So pretty simple there, but feel free to reach out to me. And I forgot to mention that my job is the volunteer manager. So I work with all of our volunteers in companies that want to come in and volunteer. And so I'd be happy to get y'all in, or at least talk about other ways you can support in the meantime. So feel free to reach out.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Allegra. And I will include your email address in the follow-up email as well.
Awesome. That's great. Thanks.
Excellent. So any other questions for Allegra? I know that we also parceled out some of this time for collective card making if we would like. I have mine right here.
I just want to say thank you so much. I'm Olivia's colleague, Ellen Sullivan. I work in fundraising at Andover, and I actually travel a lot internationally. So I would be very happy to do a drop-off at an appropriate time of some little toiletries that I've collected from all over the world. And I can also encourage my traveling Andover colleagues to do same. So I'm happy to coordinate with Olivia afterward about that. I have to.
That would be awesome. Thank you.
Sure, no problem. So I have to jump off for another meeting, but thank you so very much, Allegra. Really appreciate knowing this, and I'll get working on my cards.
Thank you. Thanks.
And I'm here on Cape Cod, so I'll send messages from Cape Cod.
Great. Thanks.
Bye, ladies.
Bye.
Thank you, Ellen.
Yeah, that was something that I always used to tell like companies or people that came in to volunteer, like if you travel a bunch and you're in hotels, like pick all those things because we use them, but now no one's really traveling. But that's a good point. Spread that word to people you know that travel as well.
Allegra, how about the, you know how if you're traveling, especially overseas, sometimes the airlines will just give you, you know, like something to travel with that has like socks, lotion, lip balm, all that stuff, most of which nobody ever uses, and you just take it home with you. Would you have a use for those little travel packs?
Definitely. Yeah. And we either like give out those packs right to the guests, or we take everything out and, you know, resort it. And then we occasionally before COVID too, we would always put together like small kits in those bags. So I would say we'll take any of those things. And socks are always honestly like one of the number one things that we give out to guests. Just having like a warm pair of socks or multiple ones is super important. So yeah, that sounds great to us. You can always send those over. Yeah. I would say with donations, like toiletries, we can kind of accept always. Like I mentioned, we unfortunately can't accept clothing unless it's on the Amazon wish list and it's like a new, it has to be new clothing. We have underwear that we always accept. So that would be great, but we don't have the space to do like any other used clothing in the shelter. I know a lot of people have come by and wanted to donate clothes, which is great. I think a lot of people are like cleaning out their own houses, which is wonderful. I need to do that too. But a lot of places have had to kind of stop taking donations for a little bit just due to cleanliness and safety things with COVID. So In the winter, at the beginning of the winter, we usually ask for like winter coats. And right now, I think we have a pretty good supply of coats, so we're probably good on that. But definitely toiletries, always, socks, new underwear. We always use those.
Allegra, I actually had a question. I had seen on your website that in addition to kind of winter coats and winter boots, you were looking for sleeping bags. Is that something that you still
Oh
are
yeah,
looking for and hand out?
we did get a very large donation of sleeping bags recently, and so I'd have to double check with our shelter manager. The needs kind of changed so much. Let me ask her if she still needs those, and I'll get back to you all about that. Because those are definitely useful, obviously, all year round, but in the winter time, especially. So I'll double check if we're still looking. The other thing that is something that people don't always think about is we do take donations of gift cards of like small amounts. So maybe like $5 to Dunkin' Donuts or, $20 to CVS. But something that people sometimes forget is it's actually really tough to find a public bathroom for people that are experiencing homelessness. Unfortunately, a lot of places don't let you just come in and use the bathroom, and places like the library or some more of those public spaces have definitely more limited hours during COVID. So something like a $5 gift card to Dunkin' Donuts, they could actually, go in, get a coffee, and use the bathroom in there. So that's something we've been telling people as well.
Those are such helpful considerations to be aware of.
Yeah.
Things that you might not think about on a regular basis.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. Thank you.
Of course. Yeah, and I'm happy to just kind of, you can always shoot me an email if you have other specific questions. And if I don't know the answer, I can ask, someone at the shelter exactly if they're looking for that right now, or if there's any other specific needs. So we can just kind of keep you in the loop about that.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then for the alum, I just wanted to reiterate, I mentioned in the beginning. So I'm serving on the advisory board of the Women's Lunch Place and also just joined the development committee. So if anybody has some really interesting ideas that they'd like to share or resources that could help with fundraising for the Women's Lunch Place, please feel free to get in touch with me.